I have to say, by the way, out there looks like a perfectly quiet night at Jordan Belfort's house, because we've got like 2 boxes of empty wine bottles, plasters, first aid kit, and a discarded pair of Steve Madden shoes. Yeah, it's a pair of Steve Madden shoes, just kind of, oh, I'll get them later, off on the seat somewhere. So just a quiet night in then. Okay, 2 parts to this session. The first is I'm going to finish off the skills part, or the training of technique part, because we've done all about questioning, we've done all of that stuff. We haven't done a session on cold calling yet because it's in the academy, but I think we're going to be doing a session about cold calling. So we're going to finish off the skills piece by talking about how we close, and then I want to go into a checking process. I want to make sure that we've gone a bit past knowledge and start to turn it into skill. Okay? So I want to do a little bit of that. So this session about closing will be quite brief, but it'll give you pretty much what you need to do to close whatever it is you want to close. Because if you think about closing, because recruitment is an iterative process, it's a repetitive process of present, get an inquiry, first interview, second, however many, 63 panel interviews and a free project. That seems to be the latest thing. You getting that yet? People being asked to do problem-solving projects as part of their recruitment process. Basically, do somebody's work for free. What? Anyway, 63 steps of interviews, offer acceptance, start date. That's fundamentally the process. There's a few kinks and foibles in there, but that's basically it. Yeah. But if you think about it, each of those steps has to be closed in the sense that you need to make sure this one is done properly and then get acceptance to go to the next step. So if you do a first interview, you need the candidate and the client to agree that they want to go to second. Yes? That to me is a close. Anytime I'm closing the next step in the process, it's a close. So if I'm closing somebody on setting up a Teams call for me to chat with them, that's a close. If I'm closing a deal, that's a close. If I'm closing on being appointed onto a PSL, it's a close. If I'm closing on a candidate letting me represent them, it's a close. Yeah. So when I'm talking about closing, don't think I mean close that sale. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is getting somebody to agree to go on to the next step in the process. That's a close. Yes? Okay. Back in the day, one of my more, how can I be polite about myself? One of my more pathetic hobbies was collecting old books on selling. There's a book by Frank Bettger, who used to be in insurance sales. It's How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. And then it had things like the pen close, which is where you give somebody the contract and then you just look them in the eyes and hand them the pen and wait for them to take it and piss off. Yeah. One of the ones I got, it's now out of print, unfortunately, was 365 ways to close that sale. And because they were a joker, they put a 366th for a leap year. How I laughed. If you need 365 ways to close the sale, you've done everything else wrong. That's the reality. Okay? I have one. I only ever use one, and I've been known to close the odd deal here or there. Just the odd one. So that's my closing technique. So if you remember back to the last session we did, we create demand. We take somebody from, I've got a headache, give me a pill. We go past, I've got a thing with my neck and I need help. And we've gone to identifying a problem that they didn't know they had. Okay? And we've done that by positive and negative framing questions and by peeing on them. PEA, precision, empathy, amplify. Yeah? This is yes, this is no, this is what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah? And yes is mainly? Excellent. Okay. So once we've amplified, once we've created that demand, once we've made somebody aware that they have problems that they weren't aware of and that we can fix them, then we're going to sack them. So once we're finished peeing on them, we're going to sack them. Okay? And they'll be grateful for it and they'll enjoy it. Because who wouldn't? So let me explain what the acronym is, because oddly enough, it is an acronym. First stage. What's the easiest way to get someone to agree with you? Easiest way to get someone to agree with you? What do you say?
Agree with this. They say something you already know they're going to say or think.
Yes. And the easiest thing you know that they're going to agree with is to summarize back what they've already said. Yeah? Thank you. I was beginning to lose the will to live there for a second. Appreciate it. So if you summarize back to somebody what they've already said, or what's already happened, or the history of the relationship up to this point, they're bound to agree with it because, well, it's true. So if you summarize to somebody, like I just did, what's gone on in the previous couple of sessions, what's gone on in the previous couple of conversations, they'll go, yeah. As long as you don't try and play clever and put a spin on it. You don't paraphrase it. You don't try and present the conversation as it would have been if it had gone in according to your dreams. You actually just summarize what's actually happened, what's actually been said. And they'll be agreeing with you. Then we're going to advise, but there's a technique that we're going to use. I mentioned this right back at the start a while ago, so I don't expect you necessarily to have remembered this one, but it's the single most powerful word in the English language, possibly only followed by the word yes. Okay? But the single word that has the most power when it comes to influencing other people's behavior in the English language, and a lot of other ones, is because. The single word, because. If you want to do a Google search on this, if you just do research photocopier because, okay? So back in the late 70s, when there were big ass photocopiers and they were in short supply, so there was a queue, okay? Harvard behavioral psychologist researcher, whose name escapes me, but look at the research, it's there, top of Google, got a group of students to go to a queue at a photocopier and say, excuse me, can I cut in? And about 60% of people said yes. Now, this has been replicated since in different places, with different groups at different times. About 60% of people will say yes to just about anything. If the stakes aren't too high, about 60% of people say yes to just about anything. Okay? Wish I'd known that when I was younger. Show your card and say, because, yeah.
The child has ADHD.
I've seen people use it to get upgrades on flights. I've seen people use it to get into places. I've used it to get into places. Used to have a whale of a time using this when I was in Spain. Get into all sorts of backstage at all sorts of places. Yeah. It's the word because. So if you've got a queue and you say, excuse me, can I cut in? That's it. Excuse me, can I cut in? About 60% of people say yes. 60% of people say yes to just about anything, which is great, unless you're in sales and you track your own numbers. Because if your close rate is less than 60%, it means you're actively pissing people off beforehand. Just a thought. Yeah? If you go to the front of a queue and you say, excuse me, can I cut in? Because I've only got 5 pages and I'm in a real rush and I'm going to get shouted at. 94% of people say yes. If you go to the front of a queue and say, excuse me, can I cut in? Because I have to make some copies. Well, what the hell is everybody else there for? 93% of people say yes. It's 94% if you have a really good reason and use the word because. It's 93% if you have no reason at all but use the word because. So because of that, what we do is use the word because here. So we summarize back what's been said, and because of that, what I'd suggest is, or because of that, how about we? And then we just lay out the next actions. Okay? Now, what we're basically doing is laying out call to action here, CTA, if you've studied online marketing or marketing per se or anything like it. But if you want somebody to do something, you have to tell them what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. When, what, and how. If you don't tell somebody what to do, when to do, and how to do, it's not really a call to action, it's kind of a vague request. So if you send out an e-shot and it doesn't tell people that you want them to book an interview, when you want them to do it, and how to do it, your success rate is going to go through the toilet. You probably lose close to 80% of your success rate, because that rules of a call to action, they apply to everything. They apply to DMs, e-shots, cold email marketing, appointment setting, whatever. It's always the same 3 rules. Okay? So this is where the conversations you and I have been having about, well, hang on, I've got to make a pitch at some point. This is as close as I get to making the pitch. Okay? So I'll summarise back what we've agreed. So you've got this challenge that you're facing, and you're not getting the right quality of candidates through, and you're not getting them in the right quantity. And because of that, that means that you're sat with all sorts of open vacancies at the moment, and those open vacancies are costing you around this much every year to not have them filled. So that simple problem is costing you all that money. Is that about right? Yes. Great. Well, because of that, what I'd suggest is we get signed up today. I go through the process that I've used in similar situations before. We get the qualifications set up. We make sure that we know exactly what kind of people you're looking for. I work out how to find them, check it with you, make sure you're happy, and then I can get started straight away on bringing you those people in. Does that make sense? That's the question at the end. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Is that okay? Does that make sense? Is that reasonable? Is that okay with you? Sound good? Whatever it might be. It's a simple, in technical language, it's called a tag question. Because it's not really a question, it's just sort of asking for them to nod and say yes. So my advice is that, if I'm closing from first to second, my advice will be, well, because you're happy and they're happy, what I'd suggest is that we get cracking on this. Let's move today, get the next date in the diary, let's get everything lined up. We'd have to start juggling about things. You give me 2 or 3 slots in your diary now, and I'll go back to them and get it sorted out for you today. That sound all right? So because of this, what I'd suggest is, because of this, why don't we? Because of this, how about? Yeah. I almost never, by the way, in fact, I don't, I'm trying to be careful with my language to make a point, but I cannot remember the last time I would ever use the word propose. Yeah? Because it just turns a conversation into something very formal. It just adds a bit of friction to it. So I don't propose. I'd try and avoid saying, but because of that, what I propose is, I'd say it much more casually. Because of that, how about? Because of that, why don't we? Because of that, what if we did this? Yeah. And because is not every language, but most languages, certainly most European languages, because is kind of hardwired into us. Yeah. Works in Spanish. Your thing last week works in Spanish perfectly well. Yeah. It's just a very simple way of getting it. And the way the psychology works is, if all this is true, and it's followed by a because, then this must also be true. This must also make sense. Okay? So it's really simple psychology, but my God, it's powerful. Yeah? You're taking somebody from just having a conversation with you to agreeing that what you've just said, whatever you've just said, makes sense and is true. And it doesn't sound like a close. It doesn't sound like a pitch. It doesn't sound like a big hoo-ha. It's not a takeaway close. It's not an alternative close. It's not a deadline close. It's not a whatever. Okay? It's just stating what you already agreed. Because of that, making a suggestion and asking if that sounds sensible. Asking if that's all right. Asking, does that make sense? Is that okay? You comfy with that?
What's an example of that one? Put it together.
Okay. Well, I mean, what I actually did last week. Okay, so you've obviously got PSL in place. It was actually Friday morning last week. You've got PSL in place at the moment. Seems to be going reasonably well, but you're conscious that there's always some candidates out there that you're not getting access to. Now, I've had a conversation with Steve, who's your regional MD, and he's taken a look at a couple of candidates that we put in front, and they are pretty much spot on, according to Steve. They are exactly what you're looking for, but neither of them were on your radar. So because of that, what I'm going to suggest is, not that we go exclusive or anything like that, but because of that, why don't we just go through all the process, get us signed up onto the PSL, make it official, so that when I do come across these kind of candidates that Steve and the other regional directors say are spot on, I can bring them to you without any friction. And we just got everything agreed, and we just crack on with getting the right bums on the right seats and getting the right talent in place. Yeah, so let's do whatever we need to do to get the PSL signed up, and let's get cracking on it so I can start on Monday for you. How's that sound? Okay. It's a fictional situation. Most of you are nodding. Yeah. That's an example. Yeah.
That tax question at the end.
Yeah.
Do because you're making a statement you're implicitly you're implying how you want to work
Yes.
on this vacancy, this
Yes.
project for them.
Yes.
So in terms of the language choice, are you never asking them what would you suggest at the end?
No, I never ask what you suggest. What I will do though, if I'm, can we turn that off, Joe? I'm a bit, yeah.
You don't
This
give
is-
advice back to them.
No, this is kind of a little bit of something we've not touched on at all yet, which is sensory acuity. Yeah. So if you think this is deep bendy mind flip, you should get me into sensory acuity. What I'm doing is, if I'm on the phone, I'm listening. I mean, tuning right in, because I've done this so often now. I'm on autopilot largely while I'm saying it. But what I'm listening for is whether they go or whether they go yeah, go yeah, or you go yeah. I'm really tuning. It's much easier on Teams, and it's a piece of cake face to face. But I'm tuning in. If I've got any uncertainty here, instead of saying "Does that make sense?" I'll turn it into "What do you think?" That's as close as I get to a kind of an open question there. But I'm really trying to tune in, and as I say, I practice this, so it's second nature. So I literally can do that and go and ride a unicycle at the same time. So that just flies by automatically because it's just discipline and practice. So I can tune right into the other person, because as you sort of intimated, the decision isn't taking place on what I say, the decision taking place inside their head. Yeah. So if I've got two things, I've got their reaction and what I'm saying. Their reaction is far more important than what I'm saying. Now, obviously, what I'm saying provokes the reaction, but I've got to make sure I'm tuned right in, because I won't go for that unless I know I've got all the agreement. Yeah. Having said that, it's slightly easier than I'm making out, because if I've created enough demand, if I've made them aware of a problem they didn't know they had, yeah, and in this particular case, the people who owned the PSL and the regional director I was talking to, they were quite convinced that they were bringing in the cream of the cream. So I come along with two candidates who blew the damn doors off, presented them at the same time, not accidentally. Made out it was, but I literally presented two candidates within 5 minutes of each other. Oh, by the way, here's another one. Yeah, just to make a point. So they now know that they've got a problem that they didn't know they had, and that they're missing out on money, opportunity, whatever it may be. They didn't know they were, but now they know they are. So what I'm advising is how to take that pain away. So as long as that's true and that sort of makes sense, it's only occasionally I'll have an issue here. Yeah? Now the issue there, for example, would have been if I'd gone straight into the PSL and I didn't have the sponsorship of a senior person. I might have been bumping up against a bit of resistance here, because, to be slightly crude about it, they don't own the pain or the gain. They own the process. Yeah. So somebody who owns a PSL but doesn't own the outcomes of the PSL, they're always going to be much more difficult to persuade, because I'm a competitor, frankly. You know, if I do my job spectacularly well, I can put them out of a job. That's not true, but that's what's going on in the back of their heads. Yeah. So there are exceptions, but if I can put this up here. So I wouldn't go in with this as a cold pitch, clearly. There has to be a conversation in advance. There has to be pain or gain. There has to be pain of not finding the right person or not filling the roles. There has to be gain in having the right people and make the right decisions. And then this sort of flows through logically. If you haven't got enough up here, don't even think about doing that, because they're not ready to buy. Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, if I'm being slightly minimizing my own approach here, all I'm actually doing is getting them out their own way. I'm not really selling them anything. They want, if I've done this right, they want to make the pain go away. They want to get the gain. So all I'm actually doing is just showing them how to. I'm reminding them of the problem. I'm reminding them of the win they could have. And then I'm just telling them what to do, fundamentally. Yeah. And as I say, I use that for setting up a first interview, going from first to second, closing somebody on a PSL, whatever. Yeah. Anytime I want somebody to take the next step in the process, that's what I use. Most of the time, people don't even notice I'm doing it because it just fits into the conversation. Because if you remember that whole piece that we did about the structure of a question, set up, question, response, follow up, that's supposed to replicate a question. Replicate a conversation. So is this. Everything I'm talking about is supposed to sound and feel and work like it's just two people having a chat. It's never supposed to feel like me selling stuff. And it's certainly never me pushing stuff. Can that make sense? Yeah.
So
you probably didn't notice that one, by the way. I summarised back everything we've done, and I said, because of that, what I'm trying to do is this, which is a hidden piece of advice. Does that all make sense? Close it off there.
So obviously in your advice, the words terms, percentages, fees, anything like that, that never comes up?
No, because that comes after.
That's purely like a business call?
Yeah. I'll try and do it on the same call.
Okay.
Because the moment I introduce a gap between one and the other, they'll cool off. There'll be a bit of inertia builds up. Yeah. So if you remember
that's really how you're solving it.
Yes, that's how I'm recommending that they solve the problem. So if you remember what I did with the PSL, the call to action was, let's get the terms signed up on the PSL straight away so that I can start looking for you on Monday morning and start bringing you the extra candidates. Yeah. So my recommendation, my advice was, let's agree the terms, let's get the PSL signed up. Yeah. I deliberately chose the PSL, by the way, because it's can be the most complicated. It can be the biggest pain in the backside. If you haven't done all this properly, there's so much vested interest and inertia and friction with the PSL. You've got to have this to make the next step as easy and as quick as possible. If I'd done this on Friday morning and allowed them to think about it over the weekend, and then we were going to have a call on Tuesday, so much stuff can take place between this and the signature, this and the terms. Yeah. So once I've got somebody to the point of taking an action, it's always now. Yeah. What you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. Yeah. So with that, it was, let's get it sorted out today. And in real life, the question at the end was, how do we get the terms signed off? That was the question there rather than simple. Yeah. So, and the answer was, I'll send them over, we'll DocuSign it this afternoon, job done. Happy days. Yeah. Questions, thoughts? Very nice questions, by the way. Love it.
Yeah, I was going to ask something quite similar.
Yeah.
If you ever get like a bit of buyer's remorse, I've had an example over the weekend, which is probably like I closed that way.
Yeah.
Even like, and she was, and then over the weekend, like I had a call this morning with the boss as well. It's all
Okay.
sorted, but I thought actually, yeah, she was quite easy to
If it,
agree because it went.
Yeah.
But then I didn't follow up after with like following what we agreed. This and this. I just
Yeah.
left it.
I wonder where that story was going, mate, when you said you had a bit of buyer's remorse. She called me up this morning saying, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Can you? Yes, you kind of can. Really, I can put it. Yes, you can if it's gone too quickly.
Yeah.
You can always get somebody going, oh, can I just clarify? Yeah, and the more often than not, they're just asking questions about the details of the process. Or
That's exactly what it was. I think it was just obviously in the call when we're on Teams.
yeah, it just flew too fast.
Yeah, but she were all in agreement. It sounded amazing. And then actually, after she looked at it all, I think she was thinking, oh.
Yeah. Did you follow it up with an email afterwards?
Yeah, I did, and that's when I
Fantastic.
gone through all my terms.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it curated a little bit. But it's also
Is that what I really agreed to? That kind of thing.
yeah, it's more like, oh, what the shit. I need to speak to my boss actually.
Yeah. It's you ever seen the Keanu Reeves Al Pacino movie, The Devil's Advocate? Yeah. Okay. If you haven't, I'm not going to do it. You'll see why when you look it up on YouTube. But go to the YouTube clip of Al Pacino explaining why he's got something that Keanu Reeves doesn't. Yeah, which is he's a surprise. They never see him coming. I'm not going to do the rest of that speech because no. Yeah. Not only would I not do an Al Pacino thing, there's also humans present, so I'm not doing that speech. But yes, you can. You can. It tends to be for one or two reasons. It's either they haven't got this nailed, so they don't really care whether they get the solution or not, or it's just gone a bit too fast and a bit too frictionless. So you get a pushback. It's not really a pushback. You get sort of a request for clarification. You get a question. It tends to be about the how do we's.
Yeah.
Is that That's our reality, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so yes, you can. I wouldn't call it buyer's remorse. You can get a little bit of uncertainty or a few questions because it's just gone through and they don't realise they've been closed.
Could you follow up with email then, being a bit more, not cheeky, but using paraphrase, like we agreed this, the next step? Or would you just leave it and try and get it all sorted on that call?
No, I'd do it on the call,
Yeah.
and then I'd always summarise with what we've agreed.
Yeah. And then put it into their words as well, actually. You have agreed, haven't you?
Yeah.
If you summarise it.
Absolutely. And so what you were saying was that this would work because of this.
Yeah.
So basically, Joe, the email I send afterwards is that again. Yeah. But the question at the end is probably something like, if I've misunderstood something, just let me know. Yeah. Again, a couple of sessions ago, they never make a mistake. It's always me misunderstanding. Yeah. So I don't want them to feel as though they're under attack. So if I've misunderstood something, just let me know. It's a really frictionless way for them to pull the reins if they want to. Yeah. That hang together, guys. The important bit is summarize accurately, and then because of that, what I'd suggest is, or because of that, how about, or because of that, why don't we? Or because of that, what we could do is, yeah, if I'm really throwing a pitch from left field, they're not expecting any kind of pitch from me. What I'll say there is, because of that, what we could do is, and then give them something we've done for other people before. Yeah? If I want to egg that up, by the way, if I want to really boost that up, I can explain who we've done it for, how we did it, what the results we've got in the past have been. So that's where I would introduce that sort of stuff. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, branching off from this a little bit, okay? If I do actually need to put some kind of pseudo pitch in it, if I feel like I need to sell them a bit more of a story, or to give a case study or an example, okay? I use 4 steps, okay? Which is this. If you look up stuff on YouTube, you'll find stuff about story selling, or you'll see a guy called Russell Brunson who runs ClickFunnels talking about the idea of story selling. What they're talking about there is that you only need a good story to motivate somebody, to convince somebody to buy. And that's true, but when you're selling business to business, the story isn't enough. You've got to have some facts. You've got to have some tangible, logical stuff that they can explain to their peers and colleagues or their boss. Yeah. So hook. What if we did this? Because in the past, what we've done for other people is, that's the story. You know, and the results that they got were this, this, and this. And the reason it worked was because of the other. So what I suggest is, yeah. So I start with, because of that, what we could do is, bang, get their attention, give them a case study or an example of stuff you've done before, give them the facts about how it worked and what the results were, and then another because of that, why don't we do this? Yeah. So if you're tiring of me saying because, that's probably because I'm using it a lot, because it works. Because of the wonderful things. It's Wizard of Oz time, yeah? So that's the process. I won't just do a case study without facts or an outcome or process. I need to give somebody something logical, because it's really difficult to go to your boss and say that you want to go with a new supplier because, hey, they did this really cool thing with somebody else. It's much easier to go to your boss and say, I want to go with this new supplier because they've saved this much time and this much money and this reduced headcount by that much.
Do you have a few like stock ones that you prepared and rehearsed?
Absolutely.
Cover each label to whatever their issue might be?
Pretty much.
Provide it, you can obviously, if hiring time is really a big problem, you can use it.
Yeah, you kind of, once you've worked a market for a little while, you kind of know what the main issues are going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a little stock of stories.
Okay.
Yeah, same as when I'm training, I've got a stock of little stuff. Like, you know, because it's not the first time I've used that one. You know.
So it might work for us doing that actually as a group.
Always. Yeah.
Because we've got examples that other people have done.
Yeah, I mean, the story is a very colloquial way of putting it. It will be a case study or an example. It'll be a way you've solved a problem, a way you've done stuff. Yeah. and then it would be the outcomes and the process. But the psychology is always the same. That's the psychology of it rather than the business terminology for it. Okay? The reason stories sell rather than facts, because what a lot of people do is they just give you loads of facts about we can do this, we've got ISO the other, and we've got this approval, and we've worked with this many companies, and we've done this many placements, and we've got 10 years experience and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but I suspect, because of the way human beings work, if you get together with your mates over the weekend, and you're going to leave your Steve Madden shoes on the bench somewhere. If you get together with your mates over the weekend, yeah, you have a couple of drinks, you're probably not exchanging facts. You're probably telling stories. You're probably doing anecdotes. You're probably sharing gags. Yeah? Because somebody who just sits there and exchanges facts is a bit dull, frankly. Yeah? Which is why last Christmas my wife got me the QI book of 1001 Facts. Because she and I are actually a bit nerdy, and we do sit there and we give each other a good facting every so often, Good facting. That left me clean. I don't know where you went. Again, not the first time I've done that verbal slip, yeah? But I'll tell you what, I bet you remember that bit now. Yeah? So, sitting there like an earwheel, going home and giving someone a right good facting. Oh, God. If you see her again, ask her about it. She'll agree with you. She'll agree. So the facts are useful, but we communicate with other people by stories. It's how we educate our children. Boy Who Cried Wolf, Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah, that's how we teach our children about not telling lies and stranger danger. Yeah, don't go off in the woods on your own with a basket because you might find a wolf. Yeah, how we teach people. We get around the camp. We used to get around campfires and tell each other stories. Now we go onto 4chan and invent bullshit conspiracy theories. It's the same stuff. It's still basic human psychology. Why did you look at him about bullshit conspiracy theories? That's disconcerting. Yeah.
Why are you looking at him now?
I don't know.
Did you look at
I feel strangely drawn to it.
I just looked and did
I just sort of looked in that general direction until he made eye contact back to me, and then I looked away. That's what I'm talking about with sensory acuity, by the way. It's watching people's reactions to stuff. Because how do I know when you've got the point? Because I see you've got it. Okay, I know you've got the point when I go and re-emphasize it, and you kind of go, oh. Yeah. So if I'm trying to make a point go home, I hammer it until each iteration stops creating a result. That's when I know to shut up and stop training, like now. Yeah. So that's the way I do it. If I'm trying to sell somebody on an idea or concept, it's always a story, backed up by facts and numbers and statistics and historical references or whatever it might be. But the story is what sells it. You may have come across the analogy before. People buy emotionally and then rationalize it with facts and logic.
How do you make so the hook, right?
Yeah.
This person increased revenue, annual recurring revenue by 20%,
Yeah.
10% in under a year.
Yeah.
They did that by, and then you're obviously going to go to the candidate before this part.
Yeah.
Go,
Yeah.
That's great. How did you do that?
Yes.
And then pass it off as the basics around. And I've got more business development managers in to find new blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But how do you make that story interesting?
Well, with charm and native intelligence, obviously, which is why I'm screwed. No, I'm with you 90% of the way in your question there, right up to the point at which your fictional candidate said, oh, I just did this, and you let them get away with it. Okay? Yeah. What I would do is precision it and drill in. So, was there anything else you could have done other than the business development managers? How did you know which business development managers to bring in? How many did you bring in? What did they produce? Were they all productive, or did you have some dropouts? I'm going to drill down more because, it is. It's a pain in the arse, but it means that my candidates sell. Yeah, like it's different in a lot of your fields because it's not revenue producing necessarily. Yeah, but there's always what they did. So look at it this way. This is the results they achieved. Yeah. This is who they did it with. Sorry, that's the results they achieved. That's what they did, with whom and how to deliver the result. And the what they did, with whom and how is how you make it interesting, because it's an explanation. It's a little Jack and Ori story of, well, you know, they came in, they've got, you know, the place was an absolute sweet shop. It was horrible when they walked in. They got, you know, nothing to work on, no standards in place. So the first thing they had to do was this, and what they could then do was that, and because of that, they could then do the other. And ultimately, in the course of 12 months, that produced these results. Go on.
So then the hook is just the best fact, because
Yeah.
because I
Yes.
sometimes feel like with these shots, okay, it's only 3 bullet points, therefore I need to, if they're a fairly senior candidate, I need them to be seen that they can do successful restructures and M&A, they need to grow revenue, and they also need to be great operationally. So I'll get 3 of the best facts, and maybe the hook, I'll add the story to the best of those facts.
The hook is, hang on, think about the example you just gave. You picked up three things, yeah? Revenue, M&A, something other.
Because if they are great all 3, kind of missing the trick by not showing prospective employer that they can do all 3 and they're not just a one-horse pony.
No, you're going to show them they can do all 3 here.
Yeah.
But the hook is the thing that's going to make them stop. Yeah.
So the best fact.
Possibly, it's not necessarily the best fact. It's the outcome that the prospect is looking for more than any other. Yeah. So if somebody's, you were talking about M&A, if somebody's grown a division from 10 million to 50 million in a year, that's my thing. Yeah. If they've done 3 restructures, I don't give a toss. Yeah. I want something that's going to get my pulse racing. I want something that's got a result attached to it, preferably money related, because money is always something that people in business are looking for. Yeah. So I'm not disagreeing with best fact at all. I'd kind of rephrase it to most attractive fact. It's the thing that's going to make him stop and think. Yeah. Give you for instance. Okay, one of candidates I worked with a couple of years ago. No, more than that. Damn, I'm old. Candidate I worked with a while ago. They had gone in. They were a divisional director, and they'd gone in and they'd grown revenue by this much. Okay, so logically that should be the hook. It actually wasn't, because growing the revenue by that much was a result of something else. Okay, and it was the something else that nobody else could do. Okay, so I could have gone with the hook of they increased revenue by 15 million of income in the first 18 months. What I went with was they recruited a new business development team, all of whom hit target. Okay? Because most people can't bring in that much new business development target, that much new business development talent, and they certainly can't make them all hit target. Yeah. So the answer on it, I could have gone with revenue. In that case, I went with the fact that they made a sales team produce, because that's harder for most people. Yeah? And if you can make a sales team produce, you'll bring in the revenue. It kind of logically flows. So there's a bit more art into that. It's like the whole thing of subject lines on an email, because this is the subject line in your email. Yeah. So that, by the way, is my candidate presentation. So my e-shot is that with 2 or 3 bullet points, which tell a story. Yeah. So that's my big claim, subject line. 2 or 3, maybe 4 bullet points that tell a story, and then a call to action. Yeah. And the 2 or 3 bullet points have numbers in them, so they cross the line into facts. Okay? And then when I'm sending out a full profile, it's that. Okay? I go to the point of explaining why somebody's moved from job A to job B. Okay? Because it's, wow, I'm really getting into semantics here. It's the candidate's journey. It's, you know, reality shows. Everybody's always gone on a journey. Yeah? They've gone on a journey from starting here to realizing they tapped out what they could learn and the potential, so they made the move into. Yeah. So I always have a reason why somebody's moved from one place to another, from one job to another, or discipline to another. That's always like kind of a little mini story, because it's one of the common questions, isn't it? Oh, why have they moved around? Why have they changed job? So I always head that off at the pass by telling them. Yeah. It's a little mini story that leads them to the opportunity to meet with you. Yeah. So it's kind of Russian dolls, it's nested. It all fits together into pieces, into lumps. I just made that sound an awful lot more complicated than it actually is. Okay? Once you've got this embedded, it's just, you just tap it out, it's da 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 da, send, da 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 da, send. Not da 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 da, because that makes a mess on the keyboard, but you know what I mean. Bear in mind, I do 60 words a minute with 2 fingers. Okay, that kind of hang together. Yeah. So hook is something that'll make them stop and think. Story is kind of what they've achieved, how they've done it. That's some facts, so they can scratch a window with it and talk to other people about it if they need to. Call to action is what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. So if it's an e-shot, that would be a Calendly link, or it will be availability, or it will be the right phone number to call you on to set something up, or whatever it is you want that to be. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Follow-up questions?
Yes.
Far away.
So your case where you spoke to an MD or director about a business,
Yeah.
yada yada yada, they've got 60 vacancies or whatever,
Yeah.
that's costing them X amount.
Yeah.
You've identified that pain.
Yeah.
Then, by the sounds of it, if I'm not mistaken, you followed up with an email to talent acquisition with these 2 candidates?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
Because-
I sent the initial email, 2 emails out to the regional director. Followed up on the phone with the regional director.
Yeah.
He then said, I want to do this. You've got to jump through some hoops for me, was the way he put it. Thanks for that. You've got to jump through some hoops for me. I'll organise it. And he then forwarded the mini emails, the e-shots, and he set up the call with talent acquisition, who I then had a conversation with. Yeah. There's a really important point that's embedded in there that just, I think, went straight past. Okay. Your e-shots. Okay. What percentage of your e-shots, now let's phrase it a different way. You send out e-shots. What percentage turn into interviews automatically just because of the email? They come back to you on email and they say, yes, I want to see them. What's the percentage?
1.
1 in what? 1's not percentage.
Yeah, it's 1%.
It's 1%. Okay. Well, that's sucky. You probably want to work on this a bit more. Yeah. Let's do a bit more on this. Okay. Because I'm shitting bricks at the moment because I'm running at 15.
I can kind of respond.
They can do. Depends. You need to check your ISP on that one. Yeah. It also depends on what you're putting in it, because spam filter's looking for phrases. Okay.
You have 1 new candidate.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to check your ISP to make sure your domain is not getting picked up automatically, or your ISP is not your IP address is not getting picked up automatically, because there's a lot of science around making sure that your IP address does not automatically go to spam with every human being on the planet. Yeah. For some reason, I've got one with my brand new email address. It's barely been used, and for some reason, it's coming up as a copycat, saying it's an alias, or it sounds like somebody else's domain name. So I've got to try and work out what that's about. Yeah. But seriously, I'm shitting bricks because I'm only getting 15% response rate. And that by response rate, it's not requests, it's also queries. And occasionally, just go off and never darken my towels again. Yeah. So I think we might need to work on the email wording and structure a little bit more. Yeah. Which starts with the main thing is, are your candidates really highly desirable, or are they just breathing? Yeah. Because if your main qualification for marketing a candidate is a 2-finger test, yeah, you've got a pulse. Okay, I'll lob you out to the market. Getting 1% from somebody that has a pulse is not bad. Getting 1% from a candidate who is absolutely superstar, highly desirable candidate, that sucks. Okay? But either way, because there's an opportunity in 99%, there's an opportunity with my 85% of non-responders, which is, I just told you in the last conversation we were having, Pick up the freaking phone. The regional MD I sent these 2 candidates out to, bosh, 5 minutes later, bosh. Okay? It was literally designed as a 1-2 punch. It was designed as left jab, right hook. Okay? Got somebody who's got all these existing all these existing clients with all this existing revenue, and they've followed her twice when she's moved job. Oh shit. Followed up by, I've got somebody on a 50k salary who does 300 grand in new business every year for the past 5 years. Oh shit. Yeah. Left jab, right hook. I still didn't get the email. I still didn't get an immediate response. But I knew I should, so I picked up the phone. Okay? Picked up the phone. I don't know how many of you have, I sent this to Joe the other week, but I don't know how many of you have actually seen my day plan, my structured day. No? If you haven't, do you want to send, if I can send it again, Joe, or if you can lob it out to people, okay? My day is stripped out because recruitment's repetitive. Recruitment is iterative. Yeah, that's why some people get bored with it. That's why I find it great, because I am a total nerd. So I'm all about trying to optimize stuff. So there's certain things I have to do at certain times. Like I'm looking into some new automations this afternoon to try and do some of my outbound emails and do some of my outbound DMs more efficiently. Yeah? But I've stripped out my diary. So between 8 and 9 every day is my social. Okay? It's either editing or just posting social. That's that. I've then got time where I send out my emails and DMs to prospective academy members. I've got time when I send out emails or DMs to my potential candidates. I've got times when I do my social stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook, where I'm commenting on other people's posts, not just like, but actually commenting with stuff. Okay? And that stuff is particularly for my Dream 100. Your Dream 100, by the way, is those people that you'd actually pay money to have them on your client list. Or you pay money to have a conversation with them. That's your Dream 100. Go into their accounts every single day, make a substantive comment on what they're talking about. If you do that often enough, they'll recognize the name. When you do some cold outreach, you've got brand recognition for the sake of doing a few comments on social posts. Yeah. Does now make it easier to get past the gatekeepers or to get your emails responded to. But here's the important thing. I've then got 4 till 5 and 5 till 6 every single day, except Mondays, because Mondays are a bit weird because we're here. Every single day, I'm either calling prospects to do a business conversation with them, or I'm following up on presentations. Okay? 2 hours every single day. Some days I'll do 120 dials and not speak to another human being. Other days I'll have 5 or 6 really good conversations. But every single day, 2 hours of picking up the phone and calling strangers. Strictly speaking, picking up the phone, calling strangers, asking them for money is what I'm basically doing. Yeah?
I need to go speak to a stranger.
Good. Okay. Most people can't do that. Most people can't do 2 hours of calls without calling the same person 6 times. Yeah? Because they haven't got enough of a list. Right? If I came up to your desk and looked at your call list, how many people's going to be on it? This isn't a quiz or a Spanish Inquisition. It's genuine. How many people are on your call list? I just checked. I was having a conversation earlier on, so I've just checked. I've got 53. Okay. Showing you mine, you show me yours. How many have you got, would you say?
Today.
Sorry?
Today?
Yeah, for today.
When call list, do you mean as in just what who you calling?
Who are you going to call? Yeah, who could you call today if you've got time?
A few hundred, I think, or
A few hundred. Okay, cool. Okay. Are they prioritised at all, or is it just the list?
just a list of companies.
Okay. Oops, she's run away. Jessica isn't having this. She's legged it. Yeah. Simple thing. If you haven't got enough contacts to call, you can't call them. Okay. If you haven't prioritised them into who you want to call first and why, you probably won't. Okay. Most people, myself included, don't get excited about the idea of cold calls. I don't get excited about cold calls. I've been doing them for, well, actually, I've made my first cold call before most of you were born. Okay. But I do them every single day. My first 5 calls, my first 5 dials every single day are an act of will. They are will, discipline. It's just got to do them. And I'll do them. And then after that, it's easy, it's fine. I'm on a roll. The 6th or the 60th, nothing, piece of cake, dead easy. I've got my script structured, so I know exactly what I'm going to say to each person. I've prepared, I've got my numbers ready, I've prioritized them, I've got a reason why I want to speak to this person or not that person. I've just made it easy for me to go and bang the phones. And I'll tell you what, if you bang the phones for 2 hours every single day, you're making money. End of story. I don't care if you've got no script, I don't care if you've got no talent, I don't care if you've got whatever, I don't care if your candidates are at best meh. You spend 2 hours a day picking up the phone, calling people, talking about recruitment. You're going to learn a shed load of stuff about the market, and you're going to make some money. You can't not. My prime example of this, I'll be 2 minutes. My prime example of this is a guy that we employed. Wendy has this expression that everybody's got one deal in them. Well, Luke was the living proof of the fact that everybody's got one deal in them. Luke was a referral from it was actually a referral from one of our colleagues' partners. Okay? Luke came to us as an injured professional windsurfer. Okay? And he is I assume he still is, the oddest human being I have ever met, right? We used to have an office on Borough High Street, which is, if you go across London Bridge and just keep going straight, that's Borough High Street. We used to have an office on there. And one day we're in the office, it's like 8:15, we're getting ready, look out the window, and there's Luke in a pair of board shorts and a wet t-shirt, he could carry it by the way, with a bloody board in his arm. He's windsurfed down the Thames because he crashed at somebody's flat in Chelsea, windsurfed against the tide down the Thames, gets out of London Bridge, carries a bloody windsurfing board under his arm to get to the office and leave it in the car park. Okay? The oddest human being. I mean, some of the stuff Luke did, I don't know you anywhere near well enough to tell you about some of the stuff he used to get up to at our gigs, because we used to do these residential events at hotels. Try and give you the cleanest one. Okay. Everybody had to go down to breakfast except Friday because we were all completely knackered. So Friday, you can hang your breakfast requests on the door handle. Okay. Luke made a point of finding out all the staffs, including all the staff's room numbers from the hotel. Still don't know how he did it. Then went round to all our rooms and changed their orders. Okay. My personal favourite was the one for Malvina, one of our former colleagues, and the one for her was served by a naked waiter. Okay? And Katie's was and a monkey. Okay? So she was ordering a croissant, orange juice, black coffee, bacon and eggs, and a monkey. Yeah, and
Did they get the monkey?
They didn't, but they got it. Well, they actually went with the gag and insisted that breakfast was free because they didn't get their order. Yeah. To be fair, we spent 100 grand a pop with the hotel, so they went, yeah, whatever. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, Luke had one deal in him. Okay. Fortunately for us, his one deal was Marks and Spencer's. Yeah. So he went out, blew the doors off, got the internal recruitment team at Marks and Spencer's, brought them to one of our gigs. So his one deal happened to be close to 90 grand. Happy days. Didn't make another deal in the 6 months he was with us. But he spoke to enough people and he followed the system and he made money. If you speak to enough human beings and you're reasonably intelligent and you're not rude or obnoxious and you talk about business, you'll make money. It's that simple. Okay. Now I was about to turn into Taken then for a second. I have a specific set of skills. I do have some skills that I can use. I do have some preparation. I do have some systems. So out of my 2 hours a day, I'll get business. I just will. I'm 5.5 weeks into my firm. I'm now on the PSL of the biggest firm in my business, my industry, my niche. I've got three interviews happening this week. And it's not because I'm intelligent. It's not because I'm charming, because you know me, I'm really not. But I'll do some basics consistently, and I pick up the bloody phone and I talk to strangers. And then I take what they told me and I talk to the next stranger. Yeah. I just do that every single day. Have a look at my day plan and you'll see what I mean. Yeah. I never walk into work going, oh, what am I doing today? Yeah? I never have that 15 minutes. 15 minutes where you grab your coffee and you look at your desk and you kind of go, oh, what did I do today? Yeah. Anybody else get that? 15 minutes? Where you're sort of working out what the day looks like? Yeah? Okay. Basic maths. 15 minutes, 5 days a week, 47 weeks a year, comes out to nearly 70 hours. Okay? 70 hours a week made up of 15 minutes of working out what you're doing today. Working out the night before, better still, work it out weeks ahead of time and just get your list, top your list up. Just do the basics that give you success and do them every single goddamn day. You'll get results. If anybody's got a stepladder, I'll climb down off my high horse now. Yeah? But it really is that simple. I have never met anybody billing big numbers who doesn't do their phone time. I'm certain Joe does. I know James does. I know Cos does. I'm just picking names you know. Yeah, I do. I've never met anybody who does big numbers who doesn't hit the phones. They might not like it, but they'll do it. I'm not encouraging you to love it. I'm just encouraging you to bloody do it. Yeah? And then you never know. You might come to like it. I'm done.